The Hidden Blade. The Hidden Blade is the most iconic... Come on, I can't get it to go back in now. Hang on, I'm going to take it off. Although it may be difficult for some people to believe, Assassin's Creed is fictional, and the Hidden Blade is one of the most iconic fictional weapons in gaming. When it comes to reviewing the hidden blades in Assassin's Creed, to me there are three main components. There's the bracer, there's the underside, and there's the blade design itself. So yes, we're going to start by reviewing every single one of them right from the first game up until Shadows, and then we will rank them.
Fascinating. I don't know, Ezio. Despite its age, the construction is rather advanced. I've never seen anything quite like it.
Incredible.
Altair's bracer in Assassin's Creed 1 is absolutely up my alley. The metal is loud and reflects off the Middle Eastern sun. You know this would strike fear into the public. The design is nicely segmented with a detailed pattern to keep it from looking too plain. The segments help to make it more believable that someone with this heavy piece of kit could still move their forearm when climbing. Details like the missing finger that allow the blade to pass through and be used more aggressively also inform us of the type of assassin that this Brotherhood made, striking fear into the public and not as heroic as later incarnations of the Brotherhood would become. I also think the blade design just being a simple length of metal makes it appear more practical and realistic. You can imagine the cogs and machinery needed to make this work, and although it wouldn't function, the simplicity doesn't overcomplicate it. Look at when science fiction tries to make functional guns. They create too many problems for themselves. The one thing I'll always appreciate with the Hidden Blade is that they never add any dials or switches or complex machinery to explain how it works. You just see the flick of the wrist bring them out, and fully believe it, which is down to the way Altair's was originally constructed. As you work your way back up through the ranks, getting rewarded with this heavy-duty bracer is a treat. I'm not sure if the bracer is ever used to deflect sword blows in combat, but it certainly looks like it could tank a hit, and double as a defensive piece of kit as well, which is very cool. I should also mention that in Revelations, Altair gets a second hidden blade, but it is just the underside piece of metal bolted onto his leather bracer. And yeah, it doesn't really work, but I prefer it massively to if they tried to give Altair a second metal gauntlet. It would have thrown the asymmetrical design way too off kilter. This may be the first hot take of the video, but I'm not a massive fan of Ezio's blade in AC2. The leather bracer looks okay on its own, but when you get into the later game and start upgrading your armour, this leather bracer looks too out of place compared to the full metal plated Ezio. That's not to say I hate the design or anything. Moving the assassin logo to the bracer was an excellent idea, as it wasn't present anywhere on Altair's design, which I think it could have used. The way Ezio's shirt billows out at the bottom is nice too, like his personality is too big for the bracer, and still retains a homemade style to the suit. The wings and feathers are a nice pattern, but I think it was done better later on. By far my favourite aspect of this blade is the length of it. Some hidden blades look a bit stubby, but Ezio's blades stick out a sizable amount from his hands. You can see how these blades were capable of open combat, as they offer a decent reach advantage for Ezio. They also have a nice floral engraving on the blades too, which gives it that Italian craftsmanship and the impression that Giovanni cared more about his appearance than Altair would have, which informs you more about the character. The second blade also feels like it was a late stage idea though, as the blade is shorter on Ezio's forearm, as if half of it just disappeared, but still retracts the same amount. Maybe they were thinking of a Shoto blade idea that didn't come to fruition, but I can never unsee this. The Brotherhood bracer is a massive improvement for me, but also it is a natural evolution of the AC2 design, because it's essentially the same design, but chromed out. Now I may have said in a previous video that Ezio's Brotherhood robes were nobody's favourite, but for his bracers, I think these are the best that Ezio got. There's a reason I get so frustrated when the legacy outfits only include the one, because it's a design that showcases the double blades best. The The braces being more like plates of armour showcase the Roman influence on these robes, and I think although simple, the engraved metal pattern is sleek and clean. It keeps the shirt coming out the bottom and the floral engraving of the AC2 design, so it doesn't leave any of those great elements behind, it just adds to a fantastic look that is fitting for Ezio. The less said about his second bracer, the better. The asymmetry looks very poor when used on this design. The Revelations blades are the first that look truly hidden. The design of Ezio in general is going for more cohesion and keeping the colour scheme dark but consistent. These brown braces aren't very flashy, but they serve their purpose and look the most realistic as something that could be worn by travellers. The fur underneath the leather looks very nice. Also, I like the hook blade as a gameplay feature, but I'm just not a fan of the way it's implemented into the design. They couldn't commit to having one of the blades just be a hook, so instead we get a full hidden blade with an eagle head halfway down, which means that yes, you can still stab people with both the left and right braces, but it makes the design too cluttered for me, and I wish they'd rather just made the eagle head the end of the blade. Considering they made new animations that incorporate the hook blade into combat, I don't think we needed a second blade too. And yes, I've seen the concept art explaining how the blade slides along the hook, so the hook can be at the end for ziplining, but as I said at the start, when you add more explanation to the hidden blade, it just makes me ask more questions. Before we move on, I want to give a brief mention to Shao, who decided that the hidden blade was silly and impractical, so she got rid of her braces entirely and put the retractable blade in her boots instead, which is an insane but cool choice to make. Oh man, I hate to say this, but I don't like Connor's hidden blade in AC3. Not the pivot blade, that's a cool idea and works excellently in execution, but the design of it is underwhelming. The blades in general are very skinny and very short, which I do not like at all. When you're just standing around and extending the blades, it's difficult to tell you've even done it sometimes as they don't stick out much. This does work in some of the animations where Connor will use them more like knuckle dusters, which is a nice variation, but I just don't think this design matches Connor's character at all. I just wanted to quickly hop on and reassure that this video is about the designs of the hidden blade, because I'm well aware that the animations for Connor using the pivot blade, like in combat, some of those animations are so good. Like, he looks incredible with some of these like kill animations. It's just the design that I'm not a fan of. That's all I wanted to say. Sorry, back to the video. The pivot blade does bring some interesting design changes though, because when used in combat or hunting, it can be rotated to be a knife that you hold, which is a neat idea, going from stealth to combat without holding your hands like you're the Doctor. This means the handle has a nice black pattern in the middle of the blade and a new serrated edge for the skinning of animals, which infuses some of Connor's personality onto the blades. This game was pushing the assassin-shaped tomahawk heavily in the marketing, so I understand why the blades were given less attention. Oh yeah, there are braces too. The leather one is okay, with a sort of off-brand logo on there. Get into focus now. Get into focus now. Oh my god, I've just discovered something. Look at the image. Look at the image that's on screen now. Both of Connor's braces are the same. They're the same. Wait a minute, I need to look at other pictures. Oh my god, it's not the only picture. The box art has Connor with two hidden blades, and they're both the same bracer. He's got brown braces on both hands, whereas we know in the game he has one that's like porcelain, like this weird white one, and then he's got the brown one. The double hidden blades was supposed to be a symmetrical design. The braces were supposed to be symmetrical, and they changed it. This isn't a massive deal. I don't know why I'm acting like this is a massive deal. It is a massive deal. Oh, but guess what solves that issue? The goddamn tyranny of King Washington. Yes, it's only the braces, but the fact that the tyranny of King Washington did anything right is baffling. These braces look nicely designed, and I like the white lining on the pattern that makes them stand out. I wish the blades themselves didn't look so modern, but the braces look nice at least, although Being a direct hand-me-down from Haytham is very odd because there's no way Haytham would have worn these, or maybe he did, they never showed us this version of Haytham. But the version of Haytham we do see has a very nice bracer. It's simple and fits his costume nicely without standing out, and the foreshadowing of the broken assassin logo is very nice storytelling. Not to mention, this is an occasion where the hidden blade is either the focus of the design and eye-catching, or something very hidden visually like with Haytham's, where you can't tell it's concealing a weapon at all. Aveline having the disguise system means she technically has 3 designs. Her main hidden blades, despite having the same animations as Connor, do have a very different design and in general harken back to Ezio's with the shirt coming out the bottom of the bracer. I like the asymmetry with the black leather bracer being quite simple and then an equally simple brown bracer with a nice rope lining around it. It stands out, but you need to look closely to appreciate the details. Her disguise has a more symmetrical design, which is interesting, and I like how the design brings back the bulk, with thick straw and rope braces to conceal the blades. This fits right in with how the costume is designed and works well for what it is. I appreciate bringing back an attempt to make the double hidden blades incorporate a symmetrical design. There's not much to say about her regal Templar in disguise look because, well, the blades are hidden. There's no design here for the braces. It's most likely the blades have been stripped down and tied to her arm like the straps we'll see in Black Flag. I mean, those blades must be super thin to fit under there and not shred her sleeves. The Black Flag braces are very plain. I mean, there's just thick leather on the arms with these buttons that don't particularly stand out. But to be fair, Edward is not an assassin and wouldn't fit having that kind of design with the rest of his outfit. Despite not much going on with the bracer, I am a big fan of the blade design. The skull on the trigger is a very nice addition, and the gold lining finally gives the hidden blade some variety in its design. We've seen patterns added to it, but this is a proper variation on the blade's mechanism. I do, however, have 2 issues with these blades. The first is that I don't like how short the blades are. Once again, they look very stubby, and unlike Connor having his pivot blade, Edward just uses his blades to skin animals, and I don't think he'd be able to do a very clean job, because they just don't stick out far enough. The second is that the blades don't look or feel important. They're kinda light and flimsy, especially when characters are holding them, and it's just the blade with the straps that lack the weight or importance that the blade should have in the arsenal. I get that it's not in Edward's character to care much for the blades, but I think they still should have matched how cool the design of the blade itself was. It kind of brings them down. Adewale uses the same blades as Edward, however, I prefer how these blades are incorporated into his design, as he has his arms bare and much chunkier braces that bring emphasis on his arms and highlight physical strength as part of his character. I feel like his build is more similar to Connor, and we do see this look carry over in the Tyranny of King Washington, which I just kinda wish had more impact on Connor's main design. The interesting aspect of Shay's design is that he doesn't have a bracer as an assassin or Templar, which could be some nice foreshadowing that Shay did not embrace the creed even early on, during his time as an assassin, although this would have hit harder if the last few games hadn't moved away from the bracers being a distinct design. The games seem to be shifting towards having variations of the hidden blade instead of new designs for the existing one. The irony is that Shay ends up having the most hidden of the hidden blades in the series. For this reason, we never got a good look at what Shay's blades looked like, or if he modified the design for his Templar robes. For all we know, they could still have had an assassin logo on them. I think that, to showcase Shay's turn, he should have started with a more devoted look, with a bracer and hidden blade design that he was proud of and would show off to others, which would make the bittersweet nature of him continuing to use them as a Templar more impactful, or even out of spite, to show how the bracers were an extension of him and not the assassins. I feel with a game as narratively rich in potential as Rogue, commenting on the hidden blades more than just them being a neat invention should have been attempted. Arno's bracer in AC Unity is very simple, but in this case I can understand why that is, because they want you to use the customization. But also, this game introduced us to the criminally underrated Phantom Blade that acts as a cute little crossbow underneath the blade, which extends outwards. Unlike the hidden gun in the Ezio games that was more of a small pipe added to the side of the blade, this was a fun extension of the design centred around this fold-out mechanism, and I have to say I massively prefer it to the gun. The Phantom Blade isn't just incredibly useful in stealth scenarios, but it streamlines elements from previous games like the blow dart into one nifty combination. The design of Arno's bracer is purely just a leather glove, but it's in service of this nice wooden design on the Phantom Blade. I also like the big disc in the middle. It reminds me of Connor's blade having a weird disc at the back, but this is a much better placement. Arno's hidden blade isn't mind-blowing, but in terms of gimmicks they introduced, I think this blade was one of the better designs introduced, to the point where it was brought back in the Edward Kenway webcomic that saw Edward gaining a Phantom Blade too. Oh man, okay, time to gush. The Assassin Gauntlet from Syndicate could be seen as far too much crammed into one design. We have the traditional hidden blade, but with a dial that makes it look like the mechanism is more industrial. A set of crow knuckle dusters, a hallucinogenic dart dispenser, and of course, the controversial rope launcher. The Assassin Gauntlet is the ultimate Swiss Army knife for the assassins, and it makes perfect sense to be in a time where weapons would need to be concealed. You couldn't just sling a grappling hook on your back, so instead it's condensed into the gauntlet. I'm so glad they chose not to put all these extra gizmos on the hidden blade and instead on the bracer, as that would have looked awful. Moulding everything onto a gauntlet makes much more sense, and the design looks like a bulky steampunk nightmare, but I love the commitment to it. The gameplay lets the rope launcher down, as I still have no idea how it's able to form a zipline, but the shooting up buildings aspect works very nicely, and I like what they were going for, speeding up the traversal. The gold and black colour scheme is eye-catching and impressive. You can imagine Jacob polishing it every day to keep the shine and show it off. I think it's one of the best blades to fit the period it's from, as you could look at things like the Phantom Blade and it could come from any era, but the Assassin Gauntlet screams Industrial Revolution, which is a great innovation on how they design these blades. However, I have to mention that in this game you could choose from a variety of different gauntlets, and I hate every single one of them. They either look like the armory arm from Yu-Gi-Oh! Or are too tame in comparison. This thing is meant to be a brick. But some of the designs, especially on Evie, where the gauntlet is slimmed down, look too basic and boring. Oh, I forgot to mention the modern day had Shaun create this shitty hidden taser thing. Yeah, no, we're not counting this. Ah, the Assassin's Creed movie. I think this abomination of boredom is something to be very slowly unpacked, and I'm unsure what angle to approach it from, but thankfully today I only have to talk about the hidden blades, and these things are both the most boring and safe version of the blade I've ever seen, and yet at the same time look the most uncomfortable. They have this thumbhole thing going on, where there's a piece of material separating the fingers, which I think is supposed to be an explanation for how the hidden blade is triggered, maybe? Like the movement of the fabric? I'm not sure. But it's really funny because when Cal puts the blades on for the first time in the modern day, why does he need to do it this way? They need to be held out with extra caution so he doesn't miss the thumb hole. This is the one time I would have accepted having just the straps. I mean, Desmond ditches the Giovanni bracer in favour of just the straps, and I'd say Desmond looks pretty cool for that. Mainly because it's Ezio's blade design, but still, these blades are utterly fine. The bracers are a brown leather pattern, with the gold blades being part of the bracer and not a separate piece. You know, maybe that's what's weird about these. I feel like we should have had the Abstergo guys hold out Callum's arm whilst they tied the blade onto the bracer, or better yet, get him out of that ridiculous claw machine animus and lay him down on a concrete slab of table like a normal person. Also, these blades have a grapple hook. We see in the opening chase scene on the cart, Aguilar fires out a line which saves him from the fall, and I'm not sure if this is like the rope launcher that will zip him up, or if he's now just stuck there. I'm not sure how useful that is. Whilst I don't like Aguilar's blades particularly, I have to highlight that some blades were made for the movie with care and attention put into them. Callum Lynch's father Joseph was also an assassin, and his father had a bracer that we barely see in the movie, but in the behind the scenes we can see that it's based on an 80s assassin. The designers modelled it after Rambo's knife and a taxi driver style material for the bracer. So yeah, that's far too cool for this movie. The blade looks pretty cool as well. The serrated edge looks lethal and the bracer has this very nice material to it. I wish we'd seen more of this in action, as so much effort went into it. Maria was also given a 2-pronged blade to showcase her quicker fighting style, which goes along with how the pivot and phantom blades were designed with their respective characters in mind. Connor naturally being more suited to using knives for hunting, and Arno being more stealthy. Speaking of knives, it's hilarious to me that in the scene where Callum confronts his father, he holds the hidden blade up like a knife. Like he just doesn't care how it's meant to be used, he just uses it like a fucking knife. I might have made a slight mistake. I'm gonna hold my hands up. I made a mistake there. I've just watched the clip where Callum confronts his father, and I think the point of the scene is that Callum is rejecting the idea of the Creed and he's going to help the Templars find the Apple of Eden so that they can undo whatever his father was planning, because his father killed his mother and he wants revenge on his mother, so it's meant to be that Callum is rejecting the Creed, therefore it's like insulting for him to hold the blade incorrectly. So look, the execution's terrible, but they did think about it, so fair dues, you got me. Finally, to note for the movie, in the final scene we see that Callum has to sneak into the Freemason Hall to assassinate Riken, but this being the modern day means there are metal detectors, so the blade has to be segmented and hidden in different miscellaneous items and assembled once inside. And yes, I totally forgot that happened too. I could have just totally made that up and I don't think people would have noticed. But guess what? They did this for real. Yeah, something that was edited so horrifically that it could have been half-arsed and nobody would have noticed, they actually did for real. They made a hidden blade that could be disassembled and put back together in such small pieces that it could go undetected in a metal detector. You know, I get sad when I think about how much effort was put into this movie. And what the fuck was shorted out? Let's get back to the games, shall we? In fact, let's deviate as we have had a couple more of the Chronicles games come out after Syndicate. Arbaaz Mia did have a trident blade in the comics. That reminds me of this shitty outward knife that Green Goblin uses in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. God, I have such a selective memory. I like the idea that it's like the hilted lightsaber version of the hidden blade with extra prongs, but really, when are you going to miss with a hidden blade that much that you need 2 extra blades a centimetre apart to do the job? Nikolai Orlov's blade in AC Chronicles Russia is just a bog standard blade, but with a leather bracer that is very flat, which is an interesting variation. What makes this instantly awesome is that the bracer has bullets on it, so it also serves as a little ammo pouch of sorts, which is pretty cool. Oh, you know what, we're already down the rabbit hole. Let's talk about those god-awful Assassin's Creed comics that I have, because I have 3 volumes of this thing, and I may as well get some content out of it. For the record, I never wanted to read these books ever again. These designs are shite. This is the modern assassin design, which looks like a baguette. There's this one in book 1, which probably took a grand total of 2 seconds to design. Book 2 doesn't even feature an assassin, it's just got this lassie with some sort of Green Goblin cosplay, and these blue braces, which I mean, how hidden are the blades going to be that there's a hidden blade on those? Because I don't see them. I don't think there's a hidden blade on those at all. Also, that's Ezio. No, I'm not joking. Look, that's Ezio. Call me Ezio. It's just not, is it? Big props to the hidden axe and hidden Glock. Nice one. I tell you what though, on the back of the book, after you've finished reading all 3 of these, there's a very nice modern design there. I quite like the blade being actually black. You don't often see the bracer being black. I think that's quite cool.
and it's got like a red lining there. I like this. The problem is, I think it is just a like artistic rendition of the blade, but I quite like that. It looks a lot less spaghetti. There you go. We went on a full character arc. Don't read these books. I don't know why I agree to even... Why did I...
Right, back to the mainline entries. Assassin's Creed Origins is a true step backwards in the timeline, before the times of Altair, so naturally showcasing the assassins at the beginning will result in a drastically different hidden blade design. Bayek's blade is given to him by Aya and based on Darius's original design. Darius was the creator of the hidden blade, and in AC2 we see him featured in the sanctuary under the villa, in Monteriggioni. Darius was a Persian that used the hidden blade to kill Xerxes. This is the earliest recorded use of the hidden blade, and his statue showcases a very traditional AC2 style hidden blade. It's traditional as to be expected being the first. Bayek, and following from that, Darius in AC Odyssey, will make a big departure from how the blade was created, and retcon a lot of AC2's version. So to explain Bayek's blade, let's talk about Darius in Odyssey. At first glance we can see that this is in no way a traditional hidden blade. The blade is the chunkiest boy we've seen yet, and is worn on Darius's forearm as a Predator-style wrist blade and not a hidden one. Do you get it? Because he's not a hidden one. It has straps that show it's been added to his bracer afterwards, and not a modification. We later find out that Darius moved to Egypt and his blade was handed down through the generation until Aya gifts it to Bayek in Origins. The blade was therefore not designed to be hidden, but a combat-ready wrist blade, as we see with Darius's boss fight, where it's used in open combat, much like Ezio's later design. What this achieves in Origins is the chance to have a scene where Bayek accidentally cuts his finger off when using the blade, leading to the origins of the sacrifice that would later be used in the franchise. I understand the need to showcase such an origin in a game called Origins, and I think that Odyssey did some much needed legwork to sell the idea that the blade was not intended to be used for stealth. However, it does open up several issues that change the lore established early on. I'm just confused about how a blade the size of his entire hand only managed to chop off one finger. I think their logic lay in the fact that Darius's statue in AC2 did not have any fingers missing, which means that Darius can't have been the one to remove his ring finger to allow the blade to pop through, which is fine. Bayek making this mistake is a crowd-pleasing moment, even if a bit wonky in its execution, but I think the design of the blade was decided before the story implications. If they'd known that Bayek's blade was going to be Darius's, then I don't think they'd have gotten such a radical redesign that the Odyssey team then needed to reverse engineer. However, in concept, the first hidden blade being this big chunky and clumsy device, yeah, I think that makes sense, and it's great that Bayek upgrades the blade in the game. We see it transform from a chunky blade to a hollow one and then a squiggly one, with a cheeky cameo from Maria's two-pronged blade from the movie as Bayek's final design. That was a neat inclusion. It always looks primitive and unfinished, which is fitting, and I like that by the end of the game we still don't get that AC1 design, showing that there was still lots of progress to be made. Alexios and Kassandra didn't use a hidden blade in Odyssey, so as to not mess with the lore. However, they do use the spear of Leonidas, which I might as well mention. It's a very basic design that makes sense because it's just the top of a spear, and has Isu elements. Becoming more Isu looking over time as you upgrade it is a nice touch, and having a weapon that is used both for stealth and combat is nice to see a return to, and it means we get a fresh set of animations for the assassinations. But that said, it just doesn't hit the same as a hidden blade, and I'm glad this is an Odyssey only weapon that won't be making a return. That said, I think Alexios and Kassandra's braces look very nice indeed. The gold plating with the pattern on instantly stands out and ends up being some of the nicest looking in the series despite not having a blade on them, which is funny because they did not need to make the bracer pop out, seeing as there's nothing to draw the player's eyes to. In the Valhalla crossover event with Odyssey, we get a return of Kassandra hundreds of years in the future and sporting a new look, with a real hidden blade this time round, and honestly, I think this design is great. The gold and brown is a great colour scheme, the Medusa head looks incredible, and the hidden blade is nicely incorporated into the design. It's a nice and simple design with a complex blade side and a simple bracer side. I especially like how her bracer design from Odyssey carries across onto her non-bladed arm. It's a very good design for a Greek-inspired bracer, even though it takes place on the Isle of Skye, and I wish she'd had this in Odyssey so we could have more time with it. I think this design made a return in AC Nexus, which explained how she got it, which is pretty neat, but I haven't seen anything of the story from that game, and I'm not sure how satisfying an explanation it is. On a side note, I've spent so many Google searches trying to find out what the story of AC Nexus is. Can somebody please just give me a rundown of the plot? I need to know if Connor has any character development, please, I need to know. Eivor's bracer in Valhalla was a gift from Basim, and one so gorgeously designed that Eivor couldn't keep it hidden and chose to show off this gift by mounting it on their arm as a wrist blade and not a hidden one, because they weren't. I do think the narrative explanation here is a great one and leans into the idea of being a Viking that would not need stealth, even though you can use stealth, and resort to using the blade for combat, which could be done with the correct perks, for cheeky counter stabs. This also leads to more aggressive assassinations with a more brash approach, with wild slashes of the bracer instead of carefully executed stabs. I love the gold on the design being so different from the dark blues and browns of Eivor's outfit, making it stand out and look valuable and appealing. I especially like how the gold is made so the blade can spring out from inside it. Like, even if you saw Eivor's bracer up close, you wouldn't see the semblance of a blade or weapon until it shot out. This means even if it served its function as an underarm hidden blade, you still wouldn't have any clue what it was if you turned it over, which is part of the design that we don't often see. Despite not being used as a hidden blade, this combines the bracer and blade into one design and succeeds massively at both. Basim's blade in Mirage is playing it very safe. We have all the hallmarks with a blade that's been tied onto an existing bracer, but I'm very surprised how, despite only being a couple of 100 years off from the Altair design, this design doesn't have any hints to it whatsoever. This blade honestly resembles Aguilar's and Ezio's more in terms of design. I expected a chunkier bracer or even a block bit of metal for the blade like in AC1, but instead it's a, yes, very well designed bracer. I like the gold and brown from the Valhalla design with the red fabric and the beads on the straps, but it looks a little too advanced for where the design ends up. My biggest complaint by far is that this is an era where the assassins still chop their fingers off so the blade could pass through, which Basim has done, but then he never holds the blade in a way to take advantage of this, like ever. There's promotional material where Basim has his fist clenched and the blade isn't passing through his ring finger like Altair, he's just positioned it like Ezio, and because this game reuses the brutal wrist blade animations from Valhalla, we don't get the kills that utilise the way this era of assassins held their blades. The hack and slash assassinations don't suit Basim at all, especially not the blade being hidden underneath his arm, and it brings down the entire design for me. Finally, that brings us on to Naoe's hidden blade from Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I'm very pleased to say that we've returned to interesting designs for the blade. In the style of Kassandra's blade design, we have a dragon at the top of the blade mechanism, a katana handle pattern used for the blade design itself, and the grand return of the pivot blade from Assassin's Creed 3, which got a big reaction from me.
It sounds familiar.
Oh! The description on Ubisoft's website also tells us that Naoe will perform assassinations by dragging people towards her and punching them with a fisted blade, similar to Altair, which gets me very excited to see how this blade works in combat. I love that we've gotten a design that's intended as a dagger in the design as well. Connor's pivot blade had a serrated edge, but Naoe's is one-sided with a blunt and rounded edge to make it resemble a dagger more, and this will make it more useful. Whether this decreases its use as a stabbing weapon and makes it more of a slashing blade is yet to be seen. The only reason I haven't bought the blade in person for myself is due to it being a very dull bracer design. It's not very interesting to have as a display piece, and I wish there was some kind of logo on the bracer, or something that looked more interesting to justify both halves. The design almost looks like it's intended to be the same on both arms, as if a double hidden blade would be included here, but I don't see that happening with the pivot blade inclusion. What I am happy to see is that after 7 years since Origins, we've finally gotten a hidden blade design that isn't afraid to be a hidden blade and also look good. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know why I'm doing an accent. Now that we've gone through them all, let's rank them. Look, I've included the majority of them. Some of them may be missing, some of them may be featured on 2 different characters, like I'm not going to class Adewale's and Edward's as 2 separate designs, if that makes sense. So, look, let's just get on with it and see where we end up. So, Altair's is absolutely goated, in my opinion, so that's going in S tier. Oh, you're not going to like me for this. I'm putting Ezio's in C because it's just alright. Don't hate me. The Brotherhood one's going above it. Just, look, I'm just going to do these. Just don't question it. Just don't question any of it. The hook blade, I like the hook blade. The hook blade may even go in... No, it's going to go high B for now. Because the hook blade has a very nice design. I mean, I've explained everything at this point. This is now me just, panicking and putting everything in place and then we'll figure it out. I don't... is it better than the AC2 one? No, it's not. Sorry. Oh, God. This feels very... Black Flag one's terrible. That's going in there. Yeah, I've committed to that now. Do I prefer the Phantom Blade to the Revelations Hook Blade? No. Do I prefer it to the Brotherhood Bracer? No. Wait. I'm putting it there. I don't like this. Nikolai's is boring. It's last. It's just got some bullets on. It's pretty typical. The Trident Blade makes no sense. It's going in dead last. The Assassin Gauntlet. I like the Assassin Gauntlet. The Assassin Gauntlet is peak. I'm going to say it now. It's peak. It's going in S tier, and I want it to be above Altair's, actually. Yeah, I like that. Aguilar's. Again, it's like the Black Flag one, but do I prefer it to the Black Flag one? No, not really. Yeah, that's going there. These are going to shift around afterwards, by the way. Don't take this as the final ranking. The 2-pronged blade from the movie and Origins is... I like the design. I do like the design. It's not quite iconic. It's going to go there. Yeah. The Origins blade, I'm not really a massive fan of. Like, in terms of storyline, okay, it makes sense. In terms of design, it's a bit boring. I quite like the bracer that Bayek has. Oh, where's this gonna go? Is it better than the Black Flag one? Yes. Is it better than the Creed 3 one? Oh god, this hurts. This hurts so much. Is this better than the Creed 3 one? No. No, it's not. That's going there. And Darius's version, which is a wrist blade, is going below both of them because it's stupid. You see the difference between the scripted stuff and the unscripted stuff? The Spear of Leonidas is not quite as stupid as these. I mean, does it count? Yeah, it does. It's going there. I don't like it. Actually, it's got unique animations. It's better than... No. I've been silly. I have been foolish. It's going there. Kassandra's is going there. I really like Kassandra's blade design. I wish we'd seen it in a better game. Nice design. I like the brown. I like the gold. And you'll see a theme with that because I am also going to put Eivor's in... Is it better than the hook blade? Yes, it is. That's what I'm going to go with. It's better than the hook blade. The hook blade's a nice design. Actually, what am I saying? I'm going to move the hook blade down here. Mirage's is like a better version of the Black Flag one, in my eyes. Is it better than the Origins one? It is a nice design. But it is also a very boring design at the same time. It's just kind of typical. But I think it's better than the Origins one. I don't like the chunky Origins blade. I get why it's there. It makes sense. I just don't like it. I like Naoe's, but you know what? There is the bracer part of it is so dull. but the underside is so good. Low A tier for now. Okay, I've done that. That's got that out of my head. I can calm down now. I can focus. Okay, let's check these. Do I think the Gauntlet is the best in the franchise? Oh, I kinda do. I kinda do. Yeah, sorry. I'm so sorry. I feel like I've made the wrong decision here. But the Gauntlet, the Assassin Gauntlet is my favourite. And then Altair's you can't beat. I think Altair's is nice, simple, straightforward, looks cool, very nice. Valhalla's, do I prefer Kassandra's or Eivor's? I prefer Kassandra's, but I don't think it should be that high up. I think Naoe's is going to go past these two. And then the Brotherhood one, I think I'm going to move the Brotherhood one up because I am a fan of the braces. I think they're very cool. They're better than Naoe's, so... Are they? No, they're sort of in line because I prefer the bracer. I like the blades to be integrated into the bracer. So I like this bulky Brotherhood sort of bracer. Naoe's doesn't quite have that same appeal. I think nostalgia is going to drive me into putting that there. The bottom tier, this is going to be, I need to name these, bad, because that is genuinely bad. Boring, there. C is going to be, they work, I guess. Very cool. Then we'll have cool, very cool. Okay, we're going with that. Yeah. Okay, so the bad and the boring. So these are boring. Mirage is boring. Black Flag is boring. Mirage is probably the best of the boring. I do like the underside of Edwards. It's just like, I don't know. I mean, I own Edwards. I just don't think it's got that same appeal to it. Then Nikolai's is definitely this. Okay, it's better than the movie one. Yeah, I like this ordering now. I feel a bit safer now ordering these. Is the two-prong better than the pivot blade? I've never been too fussy about Connor's pivot blade. I don't think it looks amazing. It's nice in action, but I just think Naoe's is going to be so much better to the point where Connor's is kind of like not really... I don't know, it's not that great anymore. We're going purely off the design. We are not incorporating gameplay elements, okay? In that case, that works. But if we were going off usefulness, the Phantom Blade is better. But we're going purely off the design. The Phantom Blade looks nice, but the bracer on top is so boring. It's not even... I can't. Eivor's, then Kassandra's top one is kind of similar to the Hook Blade. I prefer Eivor's. Do I prefer Eivor's? No, not really. No, it's too big a blade. I can't. Altair's is better than Brotherhood. Yes. Altair's is better than Naoe's. Yes. Better than the Kassandra one. Yes. Okay. Maybe that's it. Have I come to a decision? Am I giving the Brotherhood one too much hype? No, I think so. No, that's fine. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna take my hands off the keyboard before I make any other decisions. This is my ranking for this very moment. In a few moments it may change, but for now this is my ranking of every Hidden Blade design in the Assassin's Creed games. Which one is your favourite? Let me know down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you want to see more Assassin's Creed content, and I will see you in the next video. I'm regretting my choices already.